It was as though this plan had been with him all his life, pondered through the seasons. Now, in his 15th year, crystallized with the pain of puberty.
So, why'd you move here?
My mom had to get a restraining order against my stepdad. He has emotional problems.
Oh, I have those too. What kind of emotional problems does your dad have? I met a new friend.
Real or imaginary?
You're a cop, Donnie.
Imaginary.
I'm gonna tell you a little story today about a young man whose life was completely destroyed by these instruments of fear.
I haven't seen stuff.
Donnie is experiencing what is commonly called a daylight hallucination.
I have to obey him. He saved my life.
Have you ever seen a portal?
Has he ever told you about his friend Frank, the giant bunny rabbit?
The what?
Like, every living thing follows along a set path. And if you could see your path or channel, then you could see into the future, right?
I'm not going to be able to continue this conversation.
Don't worry. You got away with it.
What is going to happen?
I only have a few days left before they catch me. When's this gonna stop?
You should already know that. 30 films I'm finally seeing. One a day, all June long. And then after, if you're asking, yes, I'll be podcasting. 'Cause movie month's back, and I'll be the man, to watch and podcast all month long. Yeah, movie month's back, for 30 straight days again. And I hope each day you come along. Please come along, don't just stay here for this song. 'Cause it's movie month time, this is the movie month. Ooh, 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 honey, it's movie month time, yeah, this is the movie month. Ooh, 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 honey, it's movie month time, yeah, this is the movie month. Ooh, 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 please listen to me as I talk movies. All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's June 18th. And you know what that means? That means for the 18th day in a row, I watched a movie I've never seen before. And now I'm here podcasting about it to you, the people of Earth. This was a weird one. And it's weird on a few different levels. Number one, this movie is 23 years old, from 2001. 2 Tuesdays in a row that I've Gyllenhaaled movie month. What do you think of that? Pretty exciting. Yes, 2 Tuesdays in a row. Very drastically different than last time. The Roadhouse reboot, remake. Also connected to Patrick Swayze, but he's very different in this movie, don't you think? Don't you think? My goodness, I want to talk to you, before I get into the movie, I want to talk to you about just the fact that I can't believe a few things. Like, I can't believe that this movie slipped by me for 23 years and that I had no idea what it was about. I knew Jake Gyllenhaal. I knew a rabbit. And I thought I knew In Excess. I thought there was an In Excess song in this movie, but I didn't hear it, which makes me scratch my head a little, but not completely. We'll get there. But there was that Mad World, wasn't that a Tears for Fears song that then got remade by whoever did it? I feel like this is the more famous version. And did it get popular from this movie? I don't know. I'm just amazed that I completely was spoiler free in what this movie is, over the years. But what is it? Is it a time loop? Is it time travel? Is it just mental health? Well, I think it isn't just mental health based on one person and one person alone, and that is that Frank the rabbit, Frank the bunny, whatever you want to call him. I mean, spoiler alert, this movie's 23 years old, so, I'm going to talk about it. I was not expecting there to be someone in the rabbit suit. I was not expecting it to be a rabbit suit. I just expected it to be some manifestation of something that we'd find out sooner or later. But we see this guy, Donnie Darko. We see he goes to a psychiatrist. This woman I've talked about in the past on 2 Fine Movies, Fine Spirit movies. She was in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and of course also The Graduate. She plays the psychiatrist in this. And this is what I thought of. I thought Donnie Darko is this really kind of like emo, depressed guy who sees things and goes cuckoo. There's a picture of him holding an axe. I thought, okay, he's eventually going to kill all these people. Then I see him at one moment, he gets a gun. I thought, oh, he's going to, maybe it's going to be some sort of mass shooting event, something. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I definitely didn't expect what I got. And it makes me want to watch it again. And that doesn't happen a lot. A lot of these movies during movie month, I'm sitting, I'm enjoying, I'm taking what I can out of it, and then I'm talking about it real quick. For this one, especially a movie so old and so beloved in a cult classic sort of sense, I feel like, oh, there's a lot going on here that I might not even get on the first viewing. First of all, I don't even know if I knew or forgot that, like, the people that are in this movie, like Seth Rogen's in this movie, Noah Wyle, Drew Barrymore is in this movie. I knew Patrick Swayze. That's all I knew for sure. And I don't even know if I knew that Maggie Gyllenhaal was in it playing Jake's sister. And I'm expecting with this family, I'm expecting terrible people that push him to become, that push him to do something. If that was Rob Zombie directing it, that's what you'd get. But, like if you watch those old Halloween movies, there you go. With this, it was almost the exact opposite, where they kind of were just a normal, loving family. Nobody were, they weren't a-holes to him. They weren't abusive to him. They were both, everyone in the family was likable. Like there was no, unless I missed something, there was nothing to me that, screamed, oh, he's, it's a product of abuse or neglect or anything like that. I think it is a product of someone with mental health issues, but also somehow, some way, either figures out about time loops and wormholes, or just stumbles upon it. This is a weird movie, but weird in the most wonderful way. Where, I mean, at one point they have liquid, beings coming out of people, and I think that's their fate, right? Is that where time leads them, or something like that? I'd have to rewatch it again to get that aspect, to try to grasp it a little more. And first of all, Jake Gyllenhaal was great in this. Shocker. Not only was he great in it, but he was, great acting. But I enjoyed it. That I liked it. Obviously, boo. Oh, I'm filling my Jake Gyllenpedia. I'm filling my filmography of Jake. I'm not completely caught up with everything, but I'm filling in places everywhere. Movies that I want to see. Oh, that happens to be a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Like, I think I would have watched well, who knows if I would have watched the Roadhouse remake. But I didn't watch this because Jake's in it. I watched this because I know it's, beloved. And it just so happens that Jake's in it. Just my lucky break. Patrick Swayze plays okay, first, I'm all over the place. This movie just discombobulated me. And it took me many hours to watch it. I started after work, then I had to walk my dog, then I had some dinner, then I had, can I water the garden? Sure, I can water the garden. Let me watch it here or there, and let me watch it, and I watched it on Tubi. And I will explain to you why I watched this on Tubi. But that's towards the end. So, well, it's because it was on Tubi, but I'll get there towards the end. We'll get there. So I knew Patrick Swayze was in this. I swear to God, I thought Patrick Swayze was going to be some sort of mentor, some sort of person that kind of leads him and teaches him knows about the rabbit, something. These are the things. I knew there was a rabbit, and I knew there was Donnie Darko, and I knew Patrick Swayze. And again, In Excess, what the hell? Patrick Swayze plays the exact opposite. Like a guy who, to me, you coincide with the hero, whether he's kicking ass or twirling around. He is usually the hero who comes through, and in the end, did I read right that he passed away in 2009 and he's been gone that long, or 2006 or something? It's been a long time since he passed away. But in this movie, he plays kind of a guru, one of these personal better health, get help. What is he? I don't know. One of those, to me, quacks who, for some reason, this school, which it seems like it's a Catholic school or some sort of parochial school, buys into this guy and loves his message of fear or love. Those are the only two options, fear or love. And I'm sure there's some subtext there that I need to grasp. But he's kind of a phony, or we don't know that. We don't know that at first, but he is definitely a guy who tries to sell his methods and wants to make a buck off it. Donnie Darko eventually calls him out for being a phony. He thinks he's the Antichrist. Kids are cheering for him when he says that. And at one point I'm thinking, oh God, he's going to pull the gun out now. Here it comes. But we don't get that. We do get, though, that Frank the rabbit tells him to burn down his house. And burning down the house leads to them finding a secret room. And in that secret room, we find that he is, he's into kiddie porn. And he gets his comeuppance. You find out he is a vile human being. But even, there's this woman who's a teacher, but also a mother and a dance coach. And she cares more about him than even doing, spending time with the kids. This woman's so delusional that she's like, we need to help him. He's getting persecuted. And I don't know why. I know her from certain things, and I can't think of it, but I always like her. I don't usually like her, and that's what I like about her. She plays a good woman that you get annoyed by. So he's around dealing with that. At the same time, Donnie Darko is seeing a doctor. He's seeing things, and this Frank, the rabbit, is telling him things are going to happen in 26 days. And there's this clock throughout the whole movie. You don't know what's going to happen. My hope was something real was going to happen, and it turns out this wasn't in his head. Something catastrophic is going to happen. And it didn't, but something did happen, but it wasn't catastrophic. Not that I'm hoping for that, but I wanted there to be some sort of crazy outcome, and it didn't kind of work out that way. So he gets fascinated with time travel. He talks to Noah Wyle about it. Noah Wyle tells him about this former nun who became a science teacher, and it turns out that's their crazy neighbor. And I thought they were going to find a portal in her basement. Instead, they found bullies. I wasn't. There was so many weird things. He goes and burns down the house while they're watching a movie together. Him and his girlfriend, who again I recognize from different things. I couldn't nail down the one thing that I definitely know her from that, but I've just seen her. She's been in a lot of things. But that's when he sees Frank, and Frank tells him to do something. Again, I think this is all in his head. This is all in his head. And it is in his head. It is in his head because this, I'm just going to guess, this guy's in his head because of what he did to this guy in the future. We haven't gotten there yet. We see Frank take his hat off, take his rabbit head off, and there's a kid under there with an eye missing. And we find out later that this kid accidentally runs over Gretchen, and Donnie Darko takes out the gun that we saw earlier in the movie, shoots this guy right in the head. Then he takes Gretchen someplace, and you see all this stuff in the sky, and there's like this long loop because it's so weird. The beginning of this movie, a plane engine falls. An engine falls from a plane, and I should have known right away something's up. They don't know where this plane came from. They have no idea what this plane could have been. There's no plane around there. How did this fall? It fell into Donnie Darko's room. He wasn't there at the time. So at the end of the movie, because Patrick Swayze went to jail, Donnie Darko's mother took them to dance because the other teacher wants to stay behind and help defend. Was it Jim Cunningham? Was that his name? Patrick Swayze's character. So they're on the plane and then we start seeing all these weird clouds in the sky, and you're thinking, here comes the end of the world. Really just the end of Donnie, because they somehow hit a time loop, and this is so weird. Things reset. I don't quite know how it works. So the engine comes from their plane, but when it falls, they're already home because this happens in the future. Okay? But in the past, Donnie goes home happy in the new timeline, and the engine falls on him and kills him. But it wakes up everyone in the family because they're home because the engine was from weeks ago. Oh, my God. So, it is bonkers. And it's held together by just the weirdness, the characters, the acting, like his mom, is it Mary McDonnell? Is that his mother, the mother? She's awesome in this. I know her primarily. Now you may scoff at this, but I know her primarily from Battlestar Galactica. She played the president on the sci-fi show Battlestar Galactica, and she was awesome on that show, and she is pretty great in this movie. Mary McDonnell, yes. Holmes Osborne, I don't know this guy. He's the dad. And first of all, Darko just seems like a name. It's just their name. It just so happens that Donnie Darko seems really frightening when you realize, the name sounds more frightening when you see that in the title, Donnie Darko. Okay, so this guy he was in Southland Tales too, which is another Richard Kelly movie, which I feel like, is that the movie that just kind of made him say, okay, I'm done with Hollywood. This guy, I feel like Richard Kelly was a big deal. This movie comes out. Then Southland Tales comes out. That's 2006. That's almost 20 years ago. He does this. He does Domino, and he writes Southland Tales. Now, Domino that's a Tony Scott movie, but he was one of the writers on that. Then he does Southland Tales, which I think was some sort of insanely weird, like, flop of a movie, I think. And it was like got terrible reviews. Then he quote unquote, well, there's a sequel to this called S. Darko. And if you remember, their little sister is Samantha Darko. Now, what's interesting is they bring back the same kid. The same kid from the first movie is back in this. I have no idea if anyone else is back in it. I just know she's in it. So he has a writing credit for that, for the characters, but then he wrote a screenplay for The Box, which is a movie starring Cameron Diaz and James Marsden, and that I don't even think, maybe I knew about that. I don't know, but I think that dad is in that too. Holmes Osborne. He really likes Holmes Osborne, but then he just disappeared. There's nothing upcoming. There's nothing since he directed The Box in 2009. The guy just is I'm looking at his IMDb, and he has done nothing. I don't know what the hell, where this guy's been for, 16 years. But he made a movie that is beloved. And you think, okay, maybe try again? Just write. Maybe they're not hits, but if you could write a nice movie, write stories, I don't know. I don't know the full story. I'd like to find out more about that. I'm assuming everything in this movie did happen, and the time loop did happen, and it caused. But why did he die at the end? And how did the teacher woke up 2 days late, like it was October 2nd? I am just so. Maybe the original timeline, everything worked out, and then the crash happened October 2nd. I'm so confused. And here's the thing. I watched this movie on Tubi. And the reason I watched it on Tubi is because I looked it's on Peacock. But that's the director's cut, which came out in 2004. And I'm thinking, well, this movie, I want to see the movie that originally was given to the world, the theatrical cut from 2001. But then I thought, but what's the difference? That one has 20 more minutes. What is the difference between the theatrical cut and the director's cut? I said, Michael, there's two ways to find out about this. Read what the difference is or find out for yourself. So I decided, let's go. Let's find out for ourselves. I haven't watched it yet, but through the power of editing, I'm going to go watch it right now.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your
precious heart. There it is. There's the song I was waiting for. Turns out I had to watch the director's cut to get it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is not some cheap editing scheme. This is not like a trick. This is, I literally stopped recording before and watched the director's cut.
We could live.
And now I'm here talking about kind of the differences and little things that I forgot to mention the last time. First of all, I forgot to mention, I had no idea this took place in the 80s. It wasn't until they mentioned Dukakis that I was like, wait, this is in the 80s? I thought maybe the music just happened to be, some... I knew about the NXS song, and I think I knew about the Mad World. I'm pretty sure I knew that was in this. But again, I didn't know it was... I just thought, sometimes current movies can have older music. Current stories, current timelines can just feature older music, but not in this one. This is definitely a movie from the 80s, and it's refreshing because in the 80s, if you don't know where someone is, you can't just pick up a phone. You can't ping their phone and find out their exact location. You can't call them. You can't text them unless they're home. And if they're not home, you'll leave a message, and maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't. It made for a lot. It made for a lot of stories that had plot points because someone couldn't be reached. And that kind of that's gone away in the modern world. So little things that I noticed. So I took a few notes this time around, and I'm not usually one to do that. But for today, I thought, what the hell? I like that at one point, Frank the Rabbit says, or is it just Frank? No. The vision is Frank the Rabbit. The guy the guy made the rabbit suit. Now, did the guy make the rabbit suit because he had visions? At the end, were they all kind of feeling deja vu? Were they all feeling it? Because did deja vu come up in this movie or in another movie that I watched just the other day? I think it was in a different movie. I forget. Deja vu came up in something. Was it this? Now I'm having deja vu about that. But were they experiencing deja vu at the end? That people like, wait a second, didn't something happen? Maybe it didn't happen. Like he grabs his eye and he paints the rabbit. Was he kind of influenced on the rabbit based on some kind of vision or something that he had based on a reality that didn't happen? You see Noah Wyle he's nervous and anxious about something. Could it be the fact that he talked about Donnie Darko about time travel? The Patrick Swayze's crying. Could he be crying because he thinks he's going to get caught? I don't know. All these little things that just kind of that the gym teacher lady, she was crying or she was kind of upset about something. Little things that on a second viewing you're thinking, wait, is this happening because of this? Blah, 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 blah. The overall story didn't really change all that much, but there was more to it that I think made the director's cut better. First of all, I like the song in the first one. In the original opening, I like that song. But this In Excess song, to me, is one of the greatest love songs of all time. And I will, if you disagree with me, it's okay. It's probably not the first time nor the last time you'll be wrong about something. That's fine. But I love this song. I shouldn't say I've always appreciated this song, but maybe in the last decade or so, or even decade and a half, I've grown to really love it. And so I like to play it on guitar. Maybe I'll try to actually record a version one day and see if I can hit some of those notes. But I love that song. So that's there. There's another point where they're watching one of the Patrick Swayze videos, and Frank says, pay close attention. You could miss something. And I said, oh, well, that wasn't in the original. And that's almost like that's Frank talking to Donnie, but it's also the writers talking to us, the people watching, like, pay close attention. You might miss something. I also forgot to mention that his friends were they're the delusional nerds. They're the nerds that don't know they're nerds, and they're really cocky and pricks. And they weren't very likable. And they were racist, little assholes. Then I didn't mention the Smurfette and Smurf discussion that to me felt like, hey, I can write a Tarantino, Kevin Smith, scene too about popular culture. Just that stood out to me as something that is a sign of the times. 2001. The mailbox. I didn't catch this the first time. That she's checking the mailbox the whole time. Because later, Donnie sends her a letter. Later, Donnie sends her a letter. Right? Isn't that it? The school's it's a private school. It's not a religious school. And in this version, the book is much more prominent. The book, they actually break out the story into chapters from the book. To me, that makes it even more prominent that this isn't in Donnie's head. This is actually... all this stuff actually happened and the time loop, but I guess he dies in the different version. So I don't know if he's, who he saves by, I don't know if he does anything. Think about it. If the time loop is going to happen anyway, what exactly does he achieve? I don't know. Maybe getting the letter to her. I don't know. I'm not sure what is achieved. I don't know. But it is an interesting, this is a movie that is sticking with me to the point where I want to find articles. I want to read the trivia. Maybe there's podcasts out there. I'm sure there are. And maybe it's not as deep as I want it to be. Maybe it's like, oh, maybe this is, sometimes you just write weird to be weird. Oh, look how weird this is. And, it's like, okay, I get it. But I'm saying, I'm looking at it in a way of, is it just shallow self-importance of look how deep this is. You don't quite get it. I tend to hope it isn't, and I don't think it is because I'm getting something out of watching it, and it is making me want to investigate more and learn more. So that alone gives me hope that there are deeper things in this movie that make me want to dive more into it. I don't know. I'm just talking off the top of my head, but what other notes? Yes, the book is much more prominent. Watership Down plays a part in this. There are little scenes that they feature Watership Down, a new book they have to read because the other book got banned. They and talking about bunnies, and she's like, read this with Frank because he mentions who Frank is. There's a poetry reading. He mentions Frank. He says Frank's a 6-foot rabbit. At one point, he's got a knife mark on his neck, and I think that came from the bully, but they don't. She's like, where'd that come from? Because I don't want to talk about it. And it must have been the bully, right? There's a talk with his dad, which was nice. And while that's happening, they show the fire from Patrick Swayze's. The firefighter doesn't say, looks like we have another room. They show a room, and then they have the news conference talk about it. But I like they make the parents even more likable and more sympathetic in this version. Some scenes are like in the hotel room. One scene is kind of shortened and it's flipped around where they show the parents first and then the kids. Where in the director's cut they show the kids first, a little longer, and then the parents a little longer. What else? Was it Drew Barrymore, who is an executive producer on this movie, by the way? She says the Deus Ex Machina, the God Machine, and that makes more sense later as a callback that Donnie says with the bullies. In this version, the doctor says his pills were just placebos the whole time. So maybe that's why he was having all these visions. I don't know. They show in this version, the older woman, Roberta Sparrow, actually talks to him and says, "A storm is coming. You must hurry." Then there's no voiceover on the plane where they replay Noah Wyle talking about it could be any spacecraft. And I like that too because it kind of actually, in the original, it helped someone like me. It made it stand out more like, oh, this is happening right now. The engine comes from this plane. Whereas, I don't know, in this version, it's still the same, but it's less spelled out to you. And there's nowhere they play Gretchen saying, what if you could go back in time? Like they don't replay that part after she gets run over and he drives her away and then the loop happens. And I thought they were going to drive her away and he was going to wake up on the ground with his bike and start the whole thing again. That's what I thought was going to happen. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what happened in this movie, and I like that. And it makes me, one viewing after 23 years, and then another viewing right away of the different version that I think is the better version, and I think is going to be my preferred version going forward. It takes almost nothing away from the original, and it adds to it. So that's where I'm going to go with going forward. Though I have to say the Tubi version, like just the sound and the picture quality on the free ad-supported Tubi version was better than what I was looking at on Peacock. The sound was a little weird. The picture wasn't quite as sharp. But yeah, my goodness gracious, what a long road to get here. Finally on day 18, I went big. I watched the movie twice, 2 different versions. And I've only done that 2 other times. One other time in Movie Month, I watched both cuts of a really old movie, Blade Runner. And then one time, yes, I'll admit it, for a podcast, a horror podcast that I need to get back going called Slash, I watched 2 versions of Halloween 6. Those are drastically different too. Both times, well worth it. Well worth my time. And this third time, of course, well worth it as well. Well. Okay, I think I'm done. I think it's over. And now I got to go watch a Star Wars show and podcast about that too, because no days off. So that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon.social, and Blue Sky at Geek Mentality. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. The YouTube channel is Fans Not Experts. The website is fansnotexperts.com. This is a long one, but it deserved it. because there's a lot to talk about with this movie, and I feel like I still have just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg. I think that's the saying, right? Yeah, I think that's the saying. All right, that's good enough. I'm done. I'm out of here. Have a wonderful evening, my friends, and I will see you tomorrow. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, and here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe, 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans not experts.